Hey there everyone, Art Burns here, wishing you well today. So one of the most important aspects of mindfulness for me, and not only one of the most, kind of important benefits, but also one of the most, helpful tools with mindfulness is to understand our mental habits, right? Um, as human beings, 95% or more of what we do every day is driven by habit, right? It's automatic, So if you look at everything that you do in your life, right? Even just walking, right? Even just, walking from one place to another, you always kind of, do that in a habitual, automatic kind of fashion, right? Driving your car is habitual. Eating tends to be habitual. Shopping for things, we do the same things over and over. It's just the way we work, right? This has a lot to do with the physiology of our brains, right? And our brains process something like 2 million bits of information every second or something like that. It's really, really a staggering number. And so, the more things that your brain can automate, the better off it is, right? It wants automation. It really, really wants automation. And so habits are the way that the brain automates, right? Habits are the things that your brain doesn't have to think about when you're walking from point A to point B. Your brain doesn't have to think about when you're driving your car. I mean, how many times have you gotten to some place, picking up your kids from school, and you try to think like, okay, which route did I take? Where did I turn? What did I do to get here, right? It's not that you were distracted while you're driving. I mean, you were fully, focused on driving, but you're not focused at the same time, right? You just kind of, again, just go on autopilot with so many things in our lives. So again, 95% of the activities that we do fall into this category of automatic behavior, right? And that doesn't even count the 95% or the whatever percentage it is of automatic thoughts, particularly automatic negative thoughts. But we'll get into that in another video. But what I want to talk today about is these mental habits, right? Again, as we practice mindfulness, right, we can bring awareness to these habits, right? And so we, again, when something is automatic, when we're not thinking about what we're doing and we're just kind of going through it on autopilot, right? What that means is that we're not really aware of what's going on as we're doing it, right? And so as we practice mindfulness, we gain awareness of these automatic habits, and then that gives us the chance to sometimes challenge some of these automatic habits that we have, right? Like maybe there's some things that you're doing in your life that are not serving you, right? So for instance, take driving. There was a period in my life where, I used to be a real big sports fan. And so I got into the habit, of getting in the car and turning on like the sports radio station, right? And it's okay in little bits and stuff, and there's definitely some fun in it, like Monday morning after the football games and stuff, you hear these guys talking about what happened. You say, oh yeah, I saw that game, and you kind of like, it's a cool thing, it's fine, but what I found was that after I got into the habit so much that it was like every time I got in the car I would turn this thing on. And what I found was, the more time I spent in the car, and during a particular time in my life where this became very, very present with me, I had like an hour-long commute every day, like 45 minutes to an hour given traffic, And so what I found was that, for at least an hour and a half to 2 hours a day, I was just, exposing myself to this bombardment of these guys just like yelling over each other and, and being these sports dudes, and like, and it got to the point where it was like, wow, it's like, it was so seriously affecting me, but I didn't notice it, right? I didn't notice it at the time. And in fact, that was before I was practicing mindfulness. So I only notice it now looking back on it, right? And so the idea that I'm trying to convey to you here is that, in this time, I didn't even realize how much this was affecting my mood, right? But it was, right? It was getting me into a very, very sort of difficult state of mind, right? It was getting me into this very highly agitated and very anxious and like aggressive state of mind. Now, of course, this did not help in my driving at all, right? I'm sure there was plenty of, flipping the bird that happened that probably shouldn't have happened, as a direct result of the attitude that was being cultivated, the emotional state that was being cultivated by this constant, screaming screaming, radio guy, talking about sports. And again, like people would call in and the guys would yell at the people calling in, and it was like always, and then I'd be yelling at the radio, like, let him finish, like this whole thing. And I didn't even realize was going on, right? Now, of course, this is a very extreme circumstance, and if you've heard my story, you know that I've changed a lot over the years, right? I used to be a very, very aggressive person. I used to be very, very, mentally and physically and emotionally unhealthy person, right? And mindfulness is something that's helped me to reverse all of that, right? It's taken away all of that aggression. It's taken away all of that, like a lot of the maladaptive behavior that I had associated with my stress, maladaptive coping mechanisms, as we call, which i.e. overeating, over drinking, over consumption of caffeine and all that stuff, and so mindfulness practices have saved my life in that way. And that's a story for another video, but the way that it saved my life is not yes, in the big grand scheme of things, yes, it is something that I am, very big thoughts are involved with mindfulness, the ability to be, very present with what's going on, and accepting of my current situation, no matter what that is, being stuck in traffic, not having something available to me, being able to accept what's happening as it's happening. Those are big things that mindfulness addresses, right? But on the micro level, it's these little habits, right, that you bring awareness to, right? Like I learned to turn the radio off. I learned to, to be present with, even when I'm walking from one room to another in my home, right? Having the habit of just recognizing that you're kind of passing through different rooms and walking in certain ways and feeling yourself walking from point A to point B. What this does is this keeps you present, because the thing is that when you're on that automatic pilot, right, when you're doing something automatically like that, right, you're not thinking about what you're doing, but you're thinking about something. Okay, that I guarantee you are thinking about something. And the problem is that something, because of the way our brains are wired as human beings, they're wired for survival, right? That something that you're thinking about is almost certainly something that is negative, right? Something that causes you concern or worry or fear. And that is what gets you into the stress response, right? That's where we start tensing up. We start, feeling that, or not recognizing, but we're going through the tightening of the chest, the little, heartbeat is increasing in little ways that we might not notice, right? And again, that's something else that mindfulness certainly helps with, is noticing those physical feelings and saying to yourself, okay, I'm feeling stressed for some reason. Let me identify where it's coming from, but more importantly, let me take a few moments and breathe and just and settle into myself so I can relieve this stress response, because the stress response is not helping me. It's not going to help me be, present with my kids. It's not going to help me communicate with my kids. It's not going to help me cook a good dinner for my kids. It's not going to help me do anything. And then even beyond the house, right? It's not going to help me in my work. It's not going to help me in, the grocery store. Stress is only there to help you when you're in danger, right? And so again, mindfulness will help you to recognize this, and then you have the tools now to get present, okay? But again, getting back to my original point, sorry, I digress. The idea is that these habits, right? Like the habits are where this sort of thing lives, right? Again, when we're just walking around and we're driving our car, when we're, cooking a simple meal that we've cooked 1,000 times before, like if you have kids out there, I'm sure you cook lots of pasta, just like I do. I could cook pasta or rice with my eyes closed and, like on the moon. Like I would not have to think about it at all, right? It's just an automatic thing. So what am I thinking about during that time that I'm boiling pasta and stirring it habitually every couple of minutes, stirring it until it's, it's just something you don't have to think about. So what am I thinking about, right? Again, if I'm unintentional about what I'm thinking about, then you can bet that I'm thinking about something like a concern, right? Like something with work, something with, coronavirus, something with, my car needing to be serviced, something with, a vacation that I'm planning for, or something like that. But again, not usually like, oh, I can't wait to sit back on vacation and do nothing. No, it's probably about like, oh, do I have everything packed? Do I have what I need? Do I have the sunscreen? Do I have this? Do I have that? Right? Like that's the kind of stuff that is likely to come through our heads. But again, the key word is intentionality, which is the inverse or the opposite of habit, right? Intention is the opposite of habit, right? Habit means just doing, right? Intention means doing it purposely, right? And that's what mindfulness is all about. Okay, so that is how habits affect, or how mindfulness affects habits, and how habits kind of tie into the idea of mindfulness, right? But again, habits are how we can practice mindfulness, right? Because mindfulness can become the mental habit. Okay, and that's where things get exciting, right? Because when it becomes automatic to be intentional, that's when you got it, right? Because then, it's just every day you're just going through life, and you're just, you're always kind of bringing your awareness back to what it is you're doing, and you then become intentional about everything you do. And then that chatter of that worry and stuff, that fades away, right? It doesn't necessarily stop, but you stop listening to it so much, right? And so now this doesn't mean, some of my clients will say to me like, well, does that mean you can never listen to music in the car again? Like, no, it doesn't mean that at all. It means that you're intentional about what you're listening to, right? It means that and actually I had a client the other day who told me this was just a natural thing. I never told him about this or anything, but he came back, he says, the other day I was in the car and I realized that the music's on, but I'm not really listening to it. And I was like, yes, exactly. So it's like, it's not about necessarily turning the music off, but it's about, if it's on, listen to it. Don't just automatically put it on and just, go and just assume that that's what's supposed to be, right? Because that is non-intentional, right? Again, and in that case, if you're not listening to the music, what's going on in here? Right? It's something that is probably edging you towards stress, which is something that's not going to help you, right? So, how do we develop mental habits, right? Habits are extremely simple, right? They're extremely simple, yet very, very powerful, okay? Any habit that you have includes three essential, sort of components, right? Is the cue, the process, and the reward, right? That's how a habit works. If you can do those three things, if you can have a certain cue, right? This thing happens, and I do this, and then I feel this, right? That's how a habit forms. And if you do that every day for about a month, you form a habit. And it's a habit that is now with you until you intentionally replace it with another habit, right? So with mindfulness, right, that's how we can sort of approach getting mindfulness into our lives as a habit, right? So I would like to recommend for you a specific practice every morning to do to develop this mental habit. Okay, it's simple, it's super, super simple, and it's good for your body as well as good for your mind and good for your emotion and good for your every part of you. Okay, so what you're gonna do is, if you're into this, if you want to try this, okay, I invite you to, after you get up, right, and before you look at your phone, okay, and this is very important, okay, before you look at your phone for the first time in the morning, right, physically, do not pick it up, okay? Find another way to look at the time, find another way to do whatever you have to do. Don't look at your phone, and before you look at your phone every morning, have a full glass of water. Okay, now a full glass means somewhere 12 to 16 ounces of water, okay? But now here's the thing. When you're having that water, I want you to really pay attention to that cup of water. Okay, now this drinking a glass of water, I mean, Thich Nhat Hanh says that he can drink a cup of tea over the course of a full hour, right? So that's not what I'm talking about here, okay? A glass of water should not take more than, probably 30 seconds, maybe a minute to drink, right? If you take it really, really slow, probably a minute, right? But it's okay to drink it quickly. It's okay to really, get that water in you, right? But really pay attention to when you're drinking the water. Okay, so what does that mean? That means pay attention to how the glass feels in your hand. Like, look at the glass, right? Like, what glass is it, right? Which glass in your cabinet did you pick up to have this water in, right? Is it the one with a design on it? Is it part of a big set? Is it, is it tall? Is it short? Is it wide? Is it narrow? Notice it. Like, really pay attention. So, okay, this is the glass that I filled with water, right? And you can even take this further, like really pay attention to filling the glass with water, right? Like, notice the sound and the look of all the bubbles. Just really pay attention to it, right? And then when you're drinking the water, you don't have to sit down, you don't have to do anything. No, it's not a ceremony, right? So there's nothing that you have to, I mean, you can make it a ceremony, and that's going to actually probably, enforce this habit formation maybe a little bit stronger. So I welcome you to try that, but it's not necessary if that's not your thing, and that's cool. It's not my thing either. But what I want you to do is, no matter whether you're standing, whether you're sitting, even if you're walking I recommend trying not to walk around with it. Really stay still, and in the beginning at least, stay still and really be present with this water. So after you've filled it up and you've noticed what the glass is and how that glass feels in your hand, and you've noticed all of this, now I want you to take that first sip and really pay attention to how that feels coming into your mouth, right? How that refreshment and that coolness and that just that, because water is life, right? Water is something that your body needs, and that's the thing. This is how we're accomplishing two different goals here, right? Because drinking water in the morning is enormously important for your health, right? Your body needs water first thing in the morning, right? It's good for your brain, it's good for your joints, it's good for all of your organs, it's good for you, okay? So feel that, right? Feel your body like welcoming that water into your body, right? It's going to really appreciate it, especially if this isn't something you already do, right? If you already drink water every morning, it's not maybe going to be that big a deal for the feeling, like you're used to that already, but notice it, right? Just notice how it feels, right? Now, again, I'm talking through this like with a lot of words, but you're talking about 30 seconds, maybe a minute, right? And then when you're done with that water, now you can reward yourself by going and looking at your phone or whatever it is that you want to do next, right? So what you're doing is, first thing in the morning is your cue, right? The process is drinking that water with intention, right? Again, not talking to somebody, not like washing the dishes and drinking the water while you're doing that, or cooking breakfast for your kids and drinking the water while you're doing that. No, I want you to just drink that water, right? So that's the process. And then the reward is, okay, now I finally get to look at my phone and check where, who's looking for me or whatever, Now, what we're doing here is, again, we're building this habit. Now, another aspect of the way habits work is there's something called a keystone habit, right? And this is one of them. A very simple thing you can do every day that once you're doing that, and something that's very rewarding in terms of, life, right? Like something like making your bed would be another keystone habit. If you don't make your bed every morning, I would recommend doing that as well, And when we do these keystone habits, after doing these for about a month, right, now it becomes easier for you to pick up other beneficial habits. Okay, so that's just the way it works. Okay, so that's just a little added benefit. Okay, a value added there to the idea of forming this habit. So I've given you now 3 benefits. Okay, number 1 is the hydration, which your body needs and your body's going to love. Number 2 is forming a new habit of mindfulness and being present. Now, once you do that, and if you do that every single day, what you've done is you've sort of broken the flow of your automatic thoughts, and in doing that, again, once you become familiar with that, you're going to be able to challenge those automatic thoughts at very many different points of your life, right? And that's going to benefit you. And number 3, I've given you a keystone habit, so now other habits are going to be much easier for you to pick up. So you're welcome. I hope you enjoy those, and I hope you really get to try it, and I know that it's going to work if you do try it. So Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. If you want more information or any other exercises you'd like to talk about, please just hit me up. I'd be happy to talk to you more about this kind of stuff. All right. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I wish you well. I'll talk to you soon.